Hi there, my name is Kelly Goff. I'm a columnist for the Daily Beast, and I'm here on day 2 of the Women in the World Conference 2014 here in the Toyota Solutions studio. And I'm joined by Lauren Schroeder-Beal, the founder of DC Greens, an amazing nonprofit, which she's here to tell us a bit more about. And I'm also joined by a member of her advisory board, who some of you may also know as an actress, Maggie Gyllenhaal. Thanks so much for being here.
I'm thrilled.
So you just did a panel here at the Women in the World. How did it feel, the response from the audience?
It felt amazing. This whole event has been incredible. I mean, what an inspiration. Panel after panel, hearing women who are just so inspiring and full of optimism and full of, envisioning a world of change. So it's exciting.
I always say that if you ever want to feel like you're not doing enough to make this world a better place, come to the Women in the World Summit, because every time you go to a panel, there's some woman who's doing something more extraordinary than you thought was humanly possible. Tell us about DC Greens and what led you to found it.
DC Greens connects communities to healthy food in the nation's capital. We try and use the existing infrastructure that's in place in DC, which is 93 school gardens and 46 farmers markets, to address some of the really horrible health statistics in the district. 1 in 8 families can't afford fresh fruits and vegetables. We have obesity rates that are above the national average, and it's an embarrassment. We're the nation's capital. So we have all of these resources, and what DC Greens tries to do is work with multiple institutions like health clinics and farmers markets and schools and farmers and all of the incredible nonprofits that are in place to make sure that we're streamlining our services and working collectively to really affect change in the city.
One of the things I found fascinating as someone who covers issues having to do with income inequality quite a bit is that when people talk about poverty, you often have this image of people who are not eating enough, children who are not eating enough, and yet there seemed to be this disconnect between the issue of poverty and healthy nutrition. And I feel like that's finally starting to change a bit with people talking about the connection between poverty and obesity, for instance. What do you think really kind of turned the corner in how this is talked about in the public discourse?
I think that's really great, very perceptive. I think that historically there's been a bit of a tension between what I'll say sort of the hunger advocacy communities and the nutrition advocacy communities, and I think that that's really has been starting to change, and people are recognizing that these two groups can really work together and can ensure that all foods that are coming to hungry people have the ability to to nourish them.
Do you think that the First Lady's helped raise attention to the connection?
Unquestionably. It's been such a gift to all of us to have her really championing this cause, and as a result, it's top of mind for so many people, and not just the First Lady, but also the amazing work of Michael Pollan, the work of Mark Bittman. People who are really helping raise awareness. Certainly Alice Waters. There's so many people that are working right now to make sure that we understand the depth of the problem that we've created in this country and how hard it is to actually access food that will nourish us.
And so, Maggie, how did you end up on the advisory board? What makes you passionate about this issue?
Well, I've known Lauren a long time, long enough to know how incredibly inspiring and capable she is. And so when she asked me to get involved, I sat, I listened to her, I heard what she had to say. She totally sold me on it. To be completely honest, she probably wouldn't have had to. I'm a supporter of hers, and I'm like a dear friend of hers, but she really did sell me, and she made me feel like it was something that I wanted to help with, that I wanted to do everything I could to contribute to, and I think she's amazing, and I think, she didn't say this here, but she said it many times. She began this with wanting a neighborhood farmers market. And Lauren, it's like she's the kind of person who says, I'm going to start a farmers market, and ends up with like a massive food advocacy campaign,
right,
a movement. That's Lauren. When she said she wanted to start a farmers market, I was like, okay, but what are you really going to do? And it turned into this.
And I just to piggyback on that, I do want to say this is not something that I've done alone. I have a wonderful co-founder, Sarah Holloway Bernardi, and so many dedicated people that have helped to really coalesce this idea and move this idea forward.
And I know, Maggie, you're a mother. Do you think that has helped sort of shape your commitment to the issue of nutrition in a different way?
Yeah, I think so. I think sort of feeding another person every day gets, you're really sort of hands-on in that. Sometimes I don't feed myself as well as I feed my kids. And I think it also, makes it so much more real, the idea that not every child eats like my child does and has access to the food that my child does. And once you have a child in your arms and a child in your house, you think every child should have access to this. Every single child should have access to this kind of food.
I know that you did a film on the issue of school reform or school choice. I'm not sure how people would word that. Are social justice issues something that are close to your heart? Because I know you said that Lauren is really what pulled you into this, but you strike me as a person who just has a heart that cares about the issues that are affecting families.
Yeah, I was raised by a mother in particular who taught me to taught me that being involved in your community and taking responsibility for the things that you think are not okay and fighting against them is a part of being a human being in the world. And so I think almost every movie I do, not everyone, but almost everyone I think is political on some level. Not all of them are as overt as that, or project I just did about someone who's trying to broker peace between Israel and Palestine. Those are overtly political projects, but I think often, I think a movie about someone who's just gotten out of prison and is struggling to function in the world, that's also political, even if it's not quite as overt that way.
And that's Sherry Baby, which I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
But can you just plug the name of the film you just mentioned?
Oh, it's a BBC and Sundance co-production, and it's an 8-hour miniseries called The Honorable Woman, and I've never been more proud of anything I've made. Wow. Aside from my children in my life.
A good dinner last
Your
night.
husband will be happy to hear that.
Thanks, I'm more proud of this subject.
So the last question, it's a really tough one. How can people help? Tell people how they can help.
I think that this is an issue that absolutely everyone can help with, and I think that whether it's going and lending your time, helping out at a school garden, or shopping at farmers markets to support local farmers, or making a contribution to an organization that you care about that is dealing with these issues. I mean, this is going to take everybody and all hands on deck, and I think we are just so proud to be involved in this in DC, particularly because it's the nation's capital, and really working towards making sure that the nation's capital can be a model for the rest of the country.
And where do people go to find more information about DC Greens?
You can go to www.dcgreens.org.
Okay, Lauren and Maggie, thank you so much for joining us here in the Toyota Solutions studio. I'm Kelly Goff here at the Women in the World Summit. Thanks so much for joining us.